Julian just said to me, this is a nice forest. This is not a forest. This is Richmond Green. These are trees, there's cars. You don't have many cars parked in a forest. There's people here. They often play cricket here. Not much cricket is played in the forest. We're here to talk about movement. When to move the camera, how to move the camera, and if you should move the camera. We have loads of toys here. I would not recommend using all of these at once because it's gonna cause utter chaos for you. We have a jib, we have a slider, we have a stabilizer, and of course we have a tripod. So let's go through how you use each of these pieces of gear, starting with the absolute simplest one, handheld. This is handheld. Of course it is, because I'm using it in my hand. This is the simplest way to shoot, but I do not recommend shooting everything like this. Handheld should be handheld for a reason, especially if there is something moving and you want to get a really nice organic feel. I'll give you a few tips of how to get some nice handheld. For better results, a stabilized lens or stabilized sensor helps. This has neither right now. This camera has a nice 5-axis stabilized sensor. You're going to get much better results. So if your camera doesn't have a stabilized sensor or lens, here's some tips to get better handheld. Don't go on too long a focal length. This is 35mm on a crop sensor, which is going to give you that field of view of 50, our standard lens. If you're holding your camera out and just using the rear screen, you're taking your arms away from your body and it's going to be shaky and nasty. If your camera has an EVF, use it. If your camera just has a rear screen like the Canon DSLRs, then get something like a Z Finder. You need points of contact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you get much more stable results. I've seen a lot of people when they shoot handheld do this. Don't do that. Breathe and relax. You tense up your body, you're going to send that vibration into the camera. Relax your arms, breathe, get a nice stance on your feet, and just be nice and relaxed and floaty. Actually, the very best handheld I ever did was in Dublin. It was on a 7D, it was many years ago. And the reason why it was so good was I had a couple of drinks. Don't recommend that for handheld shooting, but it shows you when you relax your body, you get the best results. Breathe and relax. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Shooting handheld is almost like meditating. No, it's not. Focus is always a problem as well, especially if you're going to shoot shallow depth of field. If you have a camera with autofocus, good autofocus, then fine. If you're not, I'm shooting manual focus right now. I'm going to shoot at f1.4. Don't try and rack focus if Julian moves for me. Oh, it's terrible. I can't keep up. So go back to your start point.
This one.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do is, you can see on my feet, I'm going to rock with him. So is that your end point or is your start point?
Start point.
And then go back. So go to the furthest point for me. And I find my focus. And I'm going to roll. And I'm going to sway back with Julian as he moves. Off you go. Keep going. That's very strange. That's the best way I can say is to actually keep focus when shooting handheld. If he's going to start moving around crazily, then I'm going to switch to a different type of filming because it's going to look awful. But here's some other examples I've done shooting handheld to give you a nice organic film. So this shot is a different sort of handheld. It's like a POV shot, point of view, and it gives a sense of a little bit of unease, a little bit creepy, sort of spying on Julian doing his strange dancing in Richmond Green. Handheld is cool, and I do use it quite a lot, but it needs to be for the right thing. This is your best friend, a lovely video tripod with a fluid head. Lovely and smooth on the pan and on the tilt. Most of the time, my shots with a tripod are locked off, like this. And you want to do some movement, I actually don't use the pan handle. I put my hand on the head. I get much smoother movement, especially on a longer lens. You can get some really nice stuff. Start slow, build up, and slow down. How long you move the head for is dependent on the shot. There are some rules to follow. I'm going to show you them now. Your movement really does need to be motivated as much as possible. Something to drive the shot. Here's an example of an unmotivated shot. So I'm going to do a simple pan across this. It simply doesn't work. There is nothing in the frame which is driving my movement on the tripod. It's incredibly boring, as you can see. So what I need is something to drive the shot, or someone. Sarah? So I started moving the camera when she came into frame. I kept her to the right-hand side of the frame as I'm moving, and I held a position dead center and let her exit frame. Make sure there is a beginning, a middle, and an end to your shot. So if you're doing a shot of a building, you're going to pan across onto it, have something to drive the shot, whether it's pedestrian, cyclist, a vehicle. The other tip I'm going to give you is hit record, hold that static shot for about 10 seconds, move. The movement should be around 3 seconds, dependent on what's going on in the frame. And then when you get to your end point, again, hold it for 10 seconds, because what you have then is 3 shots for your edit. So you have your static at the beginning, you have your pan, and then you have another static at the end. You're not going to use all 3 shots. It's to give you options in the edit, because you may find that the actual movement doesn't work, but the static does. Give yourself options. Motivation is going to be your driving force for moving the camera, but that's the rules. You need to understand the rules so you know when to break them. I'll show you a simple shot of unmotivated movement, pointing up at the trees, a slow tilt down to reveal Julian. Reveal shot. That's nice. It'd be ideal if I had leaves falling down, or maybe, I don't know, like an anvil falling on his head to drive it. But I'll live with this. It's quite a nice shot. Maybe 95% of the time I am using my tripod simply to get a nice, static, stable shot. But moving it can work if the shot dictates it. Sliders are really common in people's videos. You see them a lot where they add a little bit of production value to quite dull shots. And this is where we can break the rules when we talk about motivated movements. Unmotivated slider shots can enliven something which is really quite dull. Although motivated slider shots are even better. Let me give you an example of an unmotivated slider shot. The key thing when using them is you need something in the foreground to give a sense of perspective. As you can see, I have some leaves in the foreground of the shot with Julian. I've got a nice bit of depth there. Now, if I move the slider along, just moving it from left to right, it reveals him. Because I'm on a quite tight shot, he's actually changing from the right of frame to the left of frame and actually going out. It's not a great shot, so what I'm going to do to make that slightly better is keep him centered, and as I move along, slightly pan with him, which gives me a nice little parallax effect. And with that nice foreground information, it's actually quite a nice shot. Let me show you what it looks like if we decided to just pan instead. So I'm going to lock this down. See, it doesn't look anywhere near as good. Let's go back onto the slider shot. Lovely. Now, what does it look like if we do a slider shot without foreground information? I'm going to show you. This is a bad shot. Julian's fine as content, but his background is hot, he's in the shade, and the slider shot is incredibly dull because there is no foreground information. Whilst the leaves are moving and I see a bit of grass moving in the foreground, look at the trees. The trees are not changing at all. It's just really boring. I can try and keep him centered and see if that makes things a bit better. It's a little bit better. So I'm simply going to move over to this park bench, which is going to give me some foreground information. I am still a little bit high, so I'm going to go low on this tripod. And I think it's going to give me a nicer background as well on the tree line. So just bring her down. Level it off. Okay, let's have a look at the shot. Let's start here. I want to get Julian. I think I'm just going to hide him a little bit more. No, there we go. That's nice. Start here. It's not a complete reveal of Julian, but it's... yeah, that's quite nice. Let's try a bit further along. There we go. And a reveal. Those are the nicest slider shots. It's all about a little bit of movement. You can get sliders which are really long. This is the right sort of length. It's 3 foot. You get 5 foot ones, you get huge ones. It's about that simple movement. If you've got that foreground in there, you don't need to do much. As you can see, I'm barely doing anything on this. It's a small reveal. I'm not even using the full length of the slider. One more time. There we go. When setting up a jib, do a little bit at a time so it doesn't fall over. If you've got somebody who can help you, then great. So right now it's definitely heavy at the back, so I can move the weights this way. A bit more balance. Back, so level off ahead, although this will change as soon as I move. But yeah, this is a jib. Now you know how to set up the jib. Let's find out how we use it and what we use it for. They are a really nice tool for getting that cinematic establishing shot. So it doesn't need to be motivated. We can just come off things onto the subject, or the motivated shot. They always look a little bit nicer. Let's do those couple examples using Sarah and a park bench. Okay, so this is the unmotivated shot. Sarah sat down on the park bench looking at Facebook on her phone. Nice jib down and hold. I may want this locked off shot, so again, hold this for a nice 10 seconds. And you can jib off her, but I like a reveal rather than a shot which goes away. So let's try that one more time. I think that was really nice. The sun's coming through beautifully. Slow down and hold. Now let's add some motivation to that shot. So Sarah's going to come along and sit down. Action. One take wonder. A lovely cinematic shot of Sarah sitting down on a park bench. Now it's time to move on to something a little bit more complicated, something that has electronics. I've been using 3-axis gimbals since about 2013, so a few years, and prior to that I was using Steadicam style rigs, which don't have the electronics and they take quite a while to master. In fact, I don't think I ever really mastered them. But the 3-axis gimbals I absolutely love, and I've used them countless times. This is the one I've been using for many years on documentaries. There's loads out there, really big, expensive ones which weigh an absolute ton, ones which weigh not much at all, single-handed grips, one's for iPhones, one's for GoPros. And this one here, I've actually changed the camera. I've taken the previous one off and put this one on because it has really good autofocus. This is actually really quite important. What do you actually use gimbals for? I'm going to show you right now. So Julian has switched to handheld, away from the trusty tripod, just to do a really subtle, not very subtle, contrast to handheld v a 3-axis gimbal. Just a little unmotivated move around Julian. So, you can see right now, it's out like this. I'm quite low. Where I really want to be is higher up, and as I put my arms in like this, it takes away a lot of the weight. You hold out like this, and you can get tired really quickly. Even with a small camera like this and a small gimbal like this, get relaxed. Right, here we are. You'll find that even if you're just holding a pint of beer out like this, you'll get tired. And this is a lot heavier than a pint of beer. We just come in with a nice close-up of Julian. Some nice smooth movements. And what's really cool about this is we saw that jib earlier. I'm going to do a jib shot. Let me just do my screen there. One quick jib down. Do another one. That's the cool thing about having one you can grip at the bottom like this and get really high. I'm already quite tired. All of these pieces of gear, they need to be used in moderation. Overuse of gimbals, that is same as overuse of sliders, overuse of jibs, overuse of anything. Use it for the right thing. When you get to a location and you're figuring out what to film, never be led by the gear. Don't go, what can I use my gimbal for here? Find the shots that you want to do to tell your story, and then if the gimbal is appropriate, then use it. Never be led by the gear. Let me show you a little bit of movement with the gimbal and how it works and how it doesn't work. I'm now pointing straight forward, doing an unmotivated walk through. Bit pointless. And now I'm going to do an unmotivated walk back. How can I make this better? Easy. I'm going to film Julian. Julian, if you'd like to stand there. I'm going to come in a bit closer to you. And this is where autofocus comes in really handy. Just going to touch his face on the back screen rather than touch his face in real life, which wouldn't be nice. And slowly walk backwards. I'm using the Ninja Walk to make it as smooth as possible on the up and down axis, which is not stabilized. Okay, so this is an endless gimbal shot because it doesn't end. Shots should always be defined. There should always be a beginning, a middle, and an end. So what can I do to make this shot have that beginning, middle, end? Easy. I'll get him to walk out of frame. Let's do that one more time. Start up close, head height, touch focus, and off we go. Walk with me, same speed, a bit faster. It's nice. And I'm going to let you walk out of frame. And there we have an end shot.